All right, guys, here's the headline over at the New York Post today. It's what we woke up to. Alleged pro-Hamas October 7th attacker living in Louisiana, arrested by the FBI. I did this for radio today, but tonight I'm bringing in Annie Cyrus and Dave Gobbett. You remember Dave is a former military guy, former federal agent who has gone undercover in about 425 mosques in America, co-author with Paul Sperry, the book Muslim Mafia. Now, you guys know on October 7th, 2023, Annie Cyrus, others that were with me that day, Usama, Sharam, we were warning that an October 7th event was coming to America because Hamas was saying so, that they were going to do this again and again and again and bring it to America. And we've been trying to warn people about an October 7th style attack on America since at least 2008. You go back into our vault, you'll find where I'm interviewing people about the Beslan terrorist attack in the former Soviet Union, where they killed over 300, many of them children, at a school. And we began to warn with people like Dave Gildock and others that they want to hit soft targets like American schools. Again, that started us doing interviews in 2008. Then when October 7th happened, we were like, that's exactly the kind of thing we've been talking about happening in America. And now we wake up to find out that one of the guys who planned the attack, who coordinated the attack in part, organized other people, armed them, we're told, and was on the first wave, was in the first wave of terrorists into the Gaza, has been found in Louisiana. Now, I said on radio and TV today that it's like a cockroach. If you see one, you know you have more than one. You have a rat, you find a rat in your house or your attic, you know you probably have more than one. We have found a cockroach. Our government has found a rat. And you know there's more than one, which tells you this lends credibility to what we've been warning about since 2008, a massive terrorist attack on major soft targets that obviously was put into greater play since October 7th, 2023. Sarah Adams, former CIA, she's warning about this as well. Isn't it interesting the various voices that are warning about this, independently of each other, and in some cases, years apart? Today, I had Dr. Andy Woods on, pastor, attorney. He mentioned that in Sugar Land, Texas, suburb of Houston, where he lives, the mosque, he says, is right across the street from their police station. And apparently they get a lot of extra treatment and traffic being conducted for their services that they don't get at his church. But they're right across the street. I thought, wait a minute, right across the street. That's interesting because don't I remember in Plano, Texas, maybe Logan, you can bring it up. Don't we have in Plano, Texas, the mosque right next door to the police department? Don't we have a guy who actually spoke at a town hall meeting warning about this? Don't they overlook what some guys are saying are very strategic parts of the activities of that police department in Plano? So when Dr. Woods said that today, hey, in Sugar Land, Texas, we have this big mosque right across the street from our police department. Like, wait a minute. They got that going on in Plano right next door to the police. Now you're telling me this is going on in Sugar Land. And I said, what we really need today, I said on radio, we need maybe Annie, Sharam, Usama, Dave Gobbets, or all of them together. And I can join them in trying to research too. Maybe some of you can help us research. We need to research how many of these mosques in America have been built right next door or right across the street, very close to your police departments. And then I thought, wait a minute, that's interesting. Haven't the Chinese, the communist Chinese, been buying up farmland right next door to military bases? Wait a minute. The red, the Marxist, and the green, the Islamist of the red-green axis, they're both buying up properties near military bases and police departments. How about sheriff departments? Let me ask you, can you email us? If you have a mosque in your community that is next door across the street, a block away from a police department or sheriff's department, will you email that information to us? Brannon, Brannon, at worldviewtube.com. I'd like to put together a list and show. Just email me, Brannon, Brannon, at worldviewtube.com. Because I think we might be onto something here. I'm thinking that the plans have been laid for some time for putting these, what I think are really armories, mosques, funded by foreign powers. Remember over in France several years ago, there was articles where in France, they were going into these mosques after a terrorist attack there in Paris, and they were finding military-grade weaponry in these mosques. And one of the police officials said, we have found more military-grade weaponry in a matter of a couple days than we would find in years. Wait a minute, why do you have military-grade weaponry in a mosque? I thought they were all about peace, because it's an armory. It's many things, a seat of government. It's a training center. It's an armory. Isn't that what we read when it comes to Muhammad? Aren't they to duplicate him? So are they building military bases, i.e. mosques? Are they building armories, i.e. mosques, right next door to military bases and or police departments and sheriff departments? While the CCP is buying up farmland by our military bases. And now, after years of planning and buying the right pieces of property in the right areas, oh, look at that. We now find what is an alleged pro-Hamas October 7th attacker living in Louisiana who reportedly took part in the October 7th slaughter of Jews, trained and led in on the first wave terrorists. That's what we're reading. That's what's being reported today. So I had to go and grab my friend Dave Gobbets and Annie Cyrus. Who did what, Logan? Now that's a viewer has sent us that picture of a guy praying on a rug right outside of Walmart. Where's that? Oklahoma City. Here's what I want you guys to do. Start taking all these pictures in your community of this kind of garbage going on. All the details you can about any mosques near police stations, near sheriff departments. Land you know for fact is owned by CCP. Now, don't send me stuff you don't know for fact. I don't have time to wade through it. Make sure it's accurate. You know it. You can prove it. Any detailed local reports of CCP land being bought. Let's compile it here and let's share it with the American people. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus and Dave Gobbets. Guys, welcome to the broadcast tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Brannon.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how you doing, Brannon?
Hanging in there. All right, let me go to you, Dave. What do you make of that opening monologue?
I think it was great. As you had mentioned, I've been to over 425 mosques in America, and I think I can help you out with your project. When I go to evaluate the threat level, I look at how close a mosque is in conjunction with not only military bases, but law enforcement departments, sheriffs and police, and also schools. And out of the 425, I am underestimating right now because I don't have the documents in front of me, but approximately 125 plus or within a mile of a mosque, school, or military base.
Within a mile?
Or closer, much closer normally.
And are some of them, are you finding like in Sugar Land or Plano, right across the street or right next door to?
I found them in South Carolina, Los Angeles area, Oklahoma, Texas, Detroit area, you name it. They're scattered all over. They are put there. You've mentioned it, and 100% correct. They are very strategic where they put a mosque. They don't just flip a coin and decide in Plano we're going to have a mosque here. They look at safe zones for them. They'd like to put them next to schools because it makes them look more legitimate, and also next to our military and law enforcement.
Oh, wow. In fact, Logan, did you find that? Were you able to find that out of Plano, Texas? Because because I know we had a guy that was warning in one of the meetings that was the case, that they were that close to the police department and were showing pictures of this. And of course, in Plano, you have the Plano mayor apparently supports all of this garbage going on there in Texas. Annie, in fact, I think I just found it. Listen to this, folks, because this is what we're talking about here. Here we go.
I retired from the Plano Police Department after 26 years of full-time law enforcement service, and I dealt with representatives of EPIC many times when I was the sergeant for the Plano Police Department, the training sergeant for the Plano PD. There seems to be a general misunderstanding that we're talking about a plan to build an Islamic Sharia-friendly community. The EPIC neighborhood already exists in Plano. It's been there for nearly 12 years, with 74 residential properties, a massive mosque, schools, a medical clinic, and multiple businesses. It also has an office of an Islamic financing institution called the UIF Corporation. The UIF Corporation is not a bank. It's a Michigan-based corporation whose publicly stated purpose is to, quote, engage in financial transactions that are Sharia compliant, end quote. Those are their words, not mine. The local government officials south of here have known for years that only Muslims can purchase homes inside that neighborhood. You have to be a member of their mosque to live there. The first house built in that neighborhood was built right next to the Plano Police Academy. It's a huge structure with two separate front doors. The rear of the property is just a few feet from a large outdoor warning siren. The house has a large second-story platform overlooking the restricted access parking lot where the police department stored specialized vehicles such as bomb trucks, bomb disposal equipment, and the SWAT team's armored vehicle. I am a court-recognized expert in SWAT team tactics and procedures. That house has all the hallmarks of a fortress and a command post. The rear of the house looks a lot like an observation post and a shooting platform. Why would somebody choose to build a house so close to a giant warning siren and a police training site? Why would someone build a huge platform overlooking all those specialized police emergency vehicles? The first owner of that house is a leader in the EPIC neighborhood, and he is also the co-founder of the Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research. And I urge everyone to visit their website and read what it has to say about instituting Sharia law. This is not a matter of radicals hiding in plain sight. They're not hiding. They've been open about their beliefs and their intent. Local government decision makers have failed to ask hard questions for fear of negative publicity and being labeled as bigots. I'm not here to spread innuendo or to make unfounded accusations. I'm asking everyone to simply look at the evidence and the confirmed facts that are already in existence. Thank you for your.
And so what you hear there is most of your local officials are cowards because they don't want to be criticized and called names. Boo-hoo. Sticks and stones kind of thing. They're cowards. They can't even handle being called names. Who cares? So what? If you can't handle being called names, how are you going to handle when they actually physically come to slit your throat or rape your daughter or granddaughter? Take them as sex slaves. Raise Muslim babies out of them. If the men in our culture become such feminized cowards, we're done. Because they can't handle somebody saying a few negative things about them. I would have gotten out of this line of work years ago if I had to worry about someone saying something negative, but I don't care. I don't care what you say. It says in Galatians, I become your enemy because I what? Tell you the truth. That's right. So who cares what they say about you? But even in our law enforcement, so many of them in law enforcement and in leadership are such cowards, they will not do anything to protect their community or their own officers or their own facilities because they're afraid someone might actually hurt their name. Well, guess what then, Sally? You should not be a police officer. And I call you Sally as in you're a man, but I'm going to give you a girl's name because clearly you're a feminized wimp. You should go get a job at the nail salon, painting nails. Maybe you could go work somewhere else where women work. And I love women. I love femininity in women, but I hate femininity in men, particularly police officers, sheriff's departments. You make me sick. You want to wear the uniform, but you apparently have no guts, no conviction, no courage. Thank God for the ones that do. Thank God for this sergeant. That guy, if I were in charge over there, I'd be calling him back into work. Can I call you in out of retirement? What kind of package do we need to give you for pay to bring you back in? But this guy's now on the outside. What do you make of that, David? They're scared of being called names, and so they let the enemy set up their military bases right next door overseeing. By the way, Dr. Woods said today, can we rack that up, Logan, where Dr. Woods today said that in Plano, they have a huge balcony that's right over top of the police as well, and that's in, not Plano, that's in Sugar Land. Can we cue that up, Logan? What do you make of this? This is now two places where we're being told by firsthand witnesses where they deliberately have areas overlooking the police that look like the kind of thing you would do if you were staging something strategic.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brannon. As you know, I went to Plano to do some undercover research at that particular mosque, and it's within 200 yards of the police department, and the whole $1 million plus homes are overlooking the police department area. In Irving, Texas, also, you got a police department that's no more than 75 feet from the police department. You got a mosque. So it's very standard practice all across the U.S. for this to happen, and they're going to continue to do it. And sadly, we don't have the leaders in America right now. And I support President Trump 100%. I think you know that.
Yep, I do too.
But when it pertains to Islam, I think he's probably got some of the worst national security advisors there are.
You're now singing. We're all singing from the same songbook now because we want President Trump to succeed. We support him in so much. He's got a lot on his plate. He is he's spinning a lot of plates at the same time, right? And you're right. The poor guy has got horrible advisors around him. A lot of them when it comes to Islam.
He does. There's enough evidence right now to shut down all 3,500 mosques in America, to include organizations like CARE, ISNA, MSA, MANA, and a dozen other acronyms. They're all simply sleeper cells operating in America with government approval through the IRS and nonprofit status. You got CARE in Washington, D.C., who is the actual leader of Hamas in America.
Wow. Say that last sentence again, David.
You have CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations, who are based in Washington, D.C. They are the leaders, the spokesperson, the people for Hamas in America. They are, I've known since 2007 and up, what they're involved in, and they support Hamas 100%. And you've got politicians who go to CARE headquarters on a regular basis.
Good grief. Well, that's the kind of thing we've known, thanks to Dave and Annie and so many others telling us what's going on. Now, let's go to Annie. Speaking of Annie. Oh, by the way, look at this headline here. This headline, CARE quietly puts $100,000 behind Zohran Mamdani's bid for New York City mayor, of course. Annie, what do you make of what you've been hearing? And by the way, this guy they've just grabbed up out of Louisiana, who apparently and reportedly was over there helping carry out October 7th and was with the first wave of terrorists into Gaza, into Israel out of Gaza. If there's one, you know there's a lot more. They're planning something. We've been warning. You've been warning. But you informed me today. How did this guy get into the U.S.? How?
Before I answer that, can I just add one more evidence to what you and David have been talking about?
Yep.
So the Islamic Institute of America Center, which is in Dearborn, Michigan, it's relocating. They are building a much bigger mosque. They had a donor, unnamed Arab Muslim businessman donor, who donated a 7-acre land to them. So they're building a 58,000 square feet new building that can serve more. And they're moving to Dearborn Heights. As I'm researching, because the mosque is going to open, they said Ramadan of 2026, which is somewhere mid-February of 2026. As I'm doing my research to do the expose, I come across this. The new location is going to be less than 5 miles away from Dearborn Heights Police Department and less than 16 miles away from, what is it called? One of the naval, I think, the U.S. Army Detroit Arsenal. So they're kind of moving closer, as you were discussing. This one's going to be in Dearborn Heights, which, by the way, this is the same area that the police department issued their new Arab English.
I'm going to put that music down and show this. This is the mosque being built in Dearborn Heights right here.
Yes.
How big that is.
58,000 square feet is the building. The land that was donated to them is 7 acres.
Whoa. What was that right in front of it? There's a neighborhood behind it. Is that a church right in front of it? Let's see here. Hang on. We'll get to it. What is that?
Yep. That seems like a church behind it. Well, front of it.
Oh, my.
Well, I wouldn't be super. Again, they are in process. It's not going to be open based on what they said until Ramadan of 2026, mid-February, end of February. So they might just try to turn this into another tri-faith, interfaith
That's what I was
land.
wondering. I was wondering if they got if they're getting support for that.
Yes. And that's the thing. The story behind this mosque, Dave might know it. It is long. It's the head imam is a Shia Muslim. When you look him up, they will tell you he's an Iraqi American, which is true. He was born in Iraq, but you look at his name, any Iranian will know where his background is from, which is Iran. And he got his degree to become an imam from Qom in Iran. So we're just going to hide the fact that he's an Iranian trained Shia imam. But that's for another show.
And the mayor of Dearborn is the Muslim, Abdullah Haman. He's the one that told the pastor, I'll throw a parade when you leave town, right?
Exactly. But that's Dearborn. This is all happening in Dearborn Heights.
So that's different than that's just a little outside of Dearborn. So there's Dearborn and there's Dearborn Heights.
Yes, we reported on Dearborn Heights Police Department about a month ago issuing the first Arabic English police badges, remember?
Oh, yes.
This is the same town. So the biggest mosque in America is now relocating to a bigger size.
And by the way, I think in Dearborn, now this is in Dearborn, not Dearborn Heights, but Dearborn Heights is where the big mosque is being built. But already in Dearborn, listen to what this lady's saying here.
We're in Dearborn. This is the call of prayer that goes off 5 times a day here in the United States. Would you like to hear this blasting through your neighborhood?
Sounds like a sick heifer. Sounds like a sick heifer.
Well, good news to her is that very mosque
They don't have a choice.
in front of is the one that's moving to Dearborn Heights. That building is the one that's moving. So Dearborn Heights neighborhood, we're going to start hearing the prayer instead of where she's at. By the way, as of right now, there is no conclusion as to what's going to happen to the old building. However, the donor, unnamed Arab Muslim businessman donor who donated the 7 acres land in Dearborn Heights, it's going to become the new owner of the old building. Is he going to decide to turn it into something else? I don't know. Is he going to just bring another imam from Middle East to run that one? That one has not been discussed. Nobody's talking about it. And I'm guessing after the big one is opened, they're going to announce what they're going to do with the old one. Now to your question about the Louisiana, by the way, on my Substack, which was released earlier today, as always, I covered this from a different angle than all the reports that are coming out. This guy was, when you say the Louisiana man, it's not like he was a resident of Louisiana. He committed October 7th and came back. It's worse than that. You brought up Oklahoma. So did Dave. It's funny because he came through Dallas airport in September of 2024. And then early 2025, he moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then June of 2025, he moved to Louisiana where he was caught. How did he get in? He went from Gaza to Egypt. From Egypt, he went to our U.S. Embassy inside Cairo, did his application, signed it, lied in the application, got his stamp of approval, and then from Cairo, he got on a plane, came to Dallas airport.
Wait a minute. Did you just tell me that our own U.S. Embassy in Cairo gave him? So basically then, and what year was that?
He came in on September 14, I think, 2024.
Okay. So that's during the Biden administration.
Yes, it is.
So are we to believe that the Biden administration or people in his State Department or CIA or whatever have went ahead and loaded up the country deliberately, perhaps, by terrorists that were even are well skilled and trained and have actually carried out October 7th? Or have they gotten help from our government to be here in the U.S.?
Yes, I would say that's a good possibility. However, I want to be very clear, as I mentioned on my Substack as well. I want to make sure we don't set this stage for when they come for us, we turn our head from Trump administration and just solely blame Biden administration. I want to make sure that's not happening. Yes, his application was signed. The date on the application says June 26, 2024. That was Biden administration. Now, too many players are involved. Let's not look away. Cairo, that is now our best friend, that is now hosting the peace summit. Listen, for years, I have been out here saying, when you blame Israel, why are you not blaming Egypt for building the wall and blocking Palestinians out? The fact that this guy was able to cross border to Egypt, somebody had to look the other way, Brannon. Somebody had to look the other way to let this guy get through that very tough border to get through after October 7th to get to our embassy in Cairo. So right here, let's not forget about Egypt. And also this morning, I reported that IDF has put out a statement saying they were able to stop 3 loaded with weapon drones that was going from Cairo to Hamas. They haven't announced what the Egypt government has said about it yet, but this was traveling directly from Egypt to Hamas. They are sending weapons to Hamas. So let's remember Egypt's role in this guy coming in. And then our own embassy, and here's what I don't buy.
And by the way, I want to show real quick the video footage of the wall on, that's the wall separating Israel from Egypt. So how did this guy Gaza to Egypt. How did the guy get out of Gaza after carrying out October 7th into Egypt? That's not a very easy task, as you can well see, listening and viewing friends. So who helped him get there? Okay. And where is Muslim Brotherhood? Where are they birthed out of? Oh, Egypt. And Egypt and Muslim Brotherhood gave birth to what? Hamas in 1987.
And let's not mention, how did Sisi come to power in 2014? Military coup. That's the thing. We need to keep an eye on those who are being referred to as our allies today. Keep an eye on Egypt. Keep an eye on Turkey. Keep an eye on Qatar.
Now, I want to come back to you. I want to come back to you for 1 second, but I want to ask David. David, I was wondering about this earlier today, and now Annie's really making me think about this. I get the feeling President Trump could possibly be being set up for incredible failure. That whoever the they is are deliberately setting him up for massive failure. Is that possible?
I think it's very possible, and Annie hit on some very good points. As I said, I support President Trump, but when it comes to understanding Islam and his advisors, he needs some work. Because right now, and I hate to disappoint people, and I think there's a lot of people like Annie and yourself and others who would possibly agree with what I'm going to say, but there is no peace plan right now between Hamas and Israel.
Correct.
It is simply a ceasefire, and a very temporary ceasefire. Hamas equals Islam. Islam equals Hamas. They will never give up power. They may do it temporarily. And I'd mentioned to some other people that when you give a Nobel Peace Prize and get world leaders coming to congratulate you on a peace plan, let's maybe make it last 48 hours, maybe a week, and I would suggest even a year. Let's see if there's peace in 6 months or a year. Then we start giving out all kinds of medals. But after 24 and 48 hours, it's already falling apart. Hamas is taking control in Gaza. They're killing their own people who they say that they love and want to help. And so they're never going to give up power. And maybe there'll be people who would disagree with me, but I think in 2 weeks to a month, we're going to find out what I'm saying is probably true.
Annie, do you agree that President Trump, I don't know who they are, but I get the feeling that Trump is being set up for failure. I'm almost wondering if they want something bad to happen on his watch. What do you think?
I would say absolutely 100%. But then I go back to what you have asked and played on your show. How can one be given wrong advice if on his first campaign in 2015 and 2016, he stood on cameras repeatedly and said, we have an Islam problem. We have a Muslim problem. We have a handful of moderates, but the rest of them want to use really, really bad methods to kill us. I think Islam hates us. These are his own words. It's hard to advise someone who supposedly was aware of the danger with bad advice. Are there influencers pushing his ego to make all the wrong decisions? Absolutely. But do I believe he's so clueless as to not knowing what he's dealing with? I don't. Again, based on his own campaign, I don't.
Logan, do we have that video footage from today with Dr. Woods? Okay, it's still running through transcription so we can find the clip. But I wanted to play in his own words, Dr. Woods saying that the mosque in Sugar Land, Texas has this big platform out that he thinks is a security problem for the police department. That's his opinion. I want to play it.
Can I finish one thought on the Louisiana guy before we... Okay,
yes.
So another thing I pointed out on the Substack, something nobody's talking about. Where was he arrested, Brannon? At a cafe, Zeus Cafe, as they were shutting down and closing down. That's where FBI raids and arrest him. Now, I dug into the owners of Zeus Cafe. Muslim Jordanian brothers who immigrated to America in 1992, I think. I'm not saying they necessarily committed a crime. However, there is no paper trace of this October 7th jihadist being on a payroll, so there's a good chance he was working under the table. The brothers were in question. One of the brothers, by the way, in 2018 was arrested for aggravated sexual assault. However, you don't find a conviction. He was released on bond, but he never returned to court, but there's no record of charges being dropped either. That's another red flag. And they sell halal meat, which all three of us can agree automatically fund jihad. But none of the owners have been questioned by FBI. How many more business owners do we have in America who are willing to give work to their jihadi neighbors or Islamic brothers while they're blend in and stay under the radar waiting for their call? Again, I'm not accusing of the owners of doing anything. I'm just saying why the questions are not being asked.
Oh, that's legit. Here we go. Netanyahu takes action on drone threat from Egypt. Security forces suggested in shooting down only about half the weapons, smuggling drones, infiltrating the Egypt-Israel border, sources say.
Mm-hmm.
They're only succeeding in shooting down half of them.
Which was 3. There were 6 of them, or at least I should say, as 10:30 a.m. Eastern time this morning, last I reported, they shot 3 of them. One of them actually passed the border, then they were able to shut it. The other 2 were still before getting to the border. So out of 6, they shut down 3. And I'm still waiting to hear anything from the Egyptian government or from our administration saying one of the signatories of the peace deal just did this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to play. Well, let me go to this real quick. Look at this. The Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, that's Muslim Brotherhood, that's Hamas. I think that's a clear line between those groups, is encouraging the U.S. Treasury and other federal agencies to investigate whether Senator Tom Cotton or Representative Elise Stefanik need to register as foreign agents of Israel. Now, isn't that rich? You got Qatar sending in billions and billions of dollars, David, but Qatar wants an investigation into some state senator and a U.S. rep who might be getting some money from a pro-Israel, a group that wants strong ties between Israel and the U.S. Aren't these guys in favor of strong ties between the U.S. and a gazillion Islamic countries?
Absolutely not, Brannon. When I've heard rumors that possibly Qatar is going to set up a military base in the U.S.
In Idaho.
In Idaho, and I think that's probably the biggest mistake that could possibly happen. All you're doing is bringing in 2,000 plus Islamic sleeper cell terrorists to set up base in Idaho, and then they can refresh their troops whenever they want to by tens of thousands. We have the same thing going on in Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, where you have the Saudis who do much of their training at that particular base. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Air Force Base in Kirtland Air Force Base. You had Iranians at the time and others who were doing training by the hundreds of people rotating in and out every month, doing training on our military base. And every month, as an OSI federal agent at the time, we were investigating several times each month where Iranians were just leaving the base and they were going undercover into different cities and no one could track them.
Good grief.
There were reports on this several years ago, but the media keeps this hush-hush, not only the liberal media, but the conservative media, because no one wants to admit on our military bases where we train thousands of foreigners from Islamic-based countries that they are all of a sudden up and missing. And I can say that all across the U.S.,
they're up and missing. All of a sudden, the Islamic folks have been brought in from the Islamic nations to work on these military bases. They're now missing.
Oh, definitely. And you got a lot of these are officers.
Okay, his cell, guys, let's see if we can get a better cell from him real quick while I play Sarah Adams, and then we'll go back to David Gobbets. Listen to what Sarah Adams, the former CIA gal, is saying. We'll have both of them respond to this. Listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, your hope is to not be on the X or in the location where it happens. What I like to try to tell people is your focus is on your family emergency plan and being home and protecting your family, or at least protecting your neighborhood, right? Have a neighborhood group watch, they block off the neighborhood if something is happening. And then your police handle the city and the roads, your sheriff handle, the main highways, etc. Now, as you said, we're going to have a lot of people rolling on this attack if it happens. We're just going to, because we've had warfighters training for 20 years. So what we've been at least trying to do in Florida, and we're pushing in other states, is have those meetings and conversations now, especially with the veteran organizations in your town. Know who they are, because we have a problem where the terrorists might dress as law enforcement. So now when you see this veteran you've never met, well-trained, well-armed, he looks like law enforcement. Is he an attacker? Is he not? There's going to be a lot of confusion in this. So we're telling everyone, make all the relationships you can now, right? Bring community into it now, because you're in a better spot. Also, as you can imagine, let's say they hit the hospital, right? And then they do a second round. Well, now you can't use the hospital. Well, did you have conversation with the local schools, the local churches? Did you stockpile medical supplies elsewhere? Do you even have the blood levels where they need to be at the blood banks in your town? There are very, very simple things that will help in any emergency that people are not doing. And we need to get citizens involved, right? I get my house in order. I get my kids' school in order, I get my church in order, and then I work with the mayor, the police chief, or whatever, to get the community in order. And I think that's the best way we at least handle how we protect and defend ourselves. Now, when something like this happens, the scale it's going to happen at, it's going to be like 9/11. You didn't know what 9/11 was, but you went the hell home. And that's what that's what you need to really focus on. The majority of people are going to need to keep themselves and the people they love safe.
Yeah. And that means you hunker down. You're not going out to the store. So that means you have to have plenty of groceries, food, water, medicine. If somebody gets sick, do you have a emergency medical kit like our wellness company kit with antibiotics? Look, I'm not doing anything. I'm not telling you to do anything that I don't do. Recently, I had Tina Blanco with worldviewtalk.com. She came and had a meal with her sister, Dr. Bashima, in my home. I showed Tina some of my preparations because she's all about prepping, satellite phones, solar generators. And I showed her a lot of my prepping and how I've organized it, where it's at, and what I have. And she was like, whoa. I talked to her a couple of days later when she got back home, and I'm going to see I'll see when I get her back on the program. I'd like her to say this so you hear it in her own words. But she said to me, Brannon, I want to just tell you how much I appreciated the opportunity to have a meal and come into your home and be there with your family and the other speakers. But I want to tell you how impressed I was with what you've done to prepare and seeing all of your preparations. I said, oh, yeah. She said, no, you don't understand. I know people. She told me some of them, but she said, let's not use their names. That's fine. She said, I know people that are in your line of work, your occupation. They tell their audience all the time to buy this, buy that, prepare for this. But when I go and visit them, I don't see that. She said, you actually are doing what you're telling your audience to do. And I thought, well, yeah, of course. I believe this. This is real. This is not a joke. This is not selling product. Yeah, the products help us stay on the air, but this is what my family does. We only came to selling all this because in 2013, I started telling my audience, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm preparing. This is what I'm getting. And the audience said, well, where are you buying all that? So we can do it. And I thought, well, if they want to buy it, we should figure a way for them to buy from us so we can use the funds to build our network and grow it, and build more apps and more platforms and offer more free programming. So we actually came to offering up worldviewstore.com where you can buy all this because our audience asked us to. And it's because I was telling my audience in 2013 all the things I have, which I have probably 10 times more now, or more, way more than probably than 10 times more I have now than I did then, because I'm always adding to it. The point I'm making is I'm not telling you to do something we don't do. And Tina Blanco and others can tell you. He actually does what he says his audience should be doing. So this is not a joke. This is not selling product. And I don't know how I can stress this. A lady called in to our broadcast on radio who went through the floods there in North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee last year. She called into the program, and we have it. We played it back on television. And she said, I sat in the dark for several nights. And at night, sitting in the dark, I would think, Brannon Howse told me I would one day likely find myself in this situation. And here I am. That's right. I don't want any of my listening friends and viewers and listeners to be sitting in the dark saying, I wish I had listened to him. And God forbid, you have put enough on social media, and a lot of you have, and I'm not saying you're wrong to do it, but a lot of you have put a lot of information on social media, and you are very well tagged that you're a Christian, you're Jewish, you're pro-Israel, you're a veteran. You are likely, very probable, you could be a target. And I'm telling you now, not to scare you, but because I care. And I don't care where you buy it. I don't sell guns. I don't sell ammunition. So I don't make any money when you go buy guns and ammunition. But I think you should go buy guns and ammunition. I think you better get ready and pray to God you don't need any of it. And if the day comes when you have bought stuff that you don't need, And a lot of that free trade food, by the way, is like 25 years. But if it gets to a point where your food is aging out, you know what you can go do? Go donate it to the Goodwill. Go donate it to Goodwill and take the tax write-off. Hello. And you'll be thanking yourself that you bought it, even if you don't need it and it's about to age out, and you go donate it and get the tax deduction and then go restock. And again, it's like buying precious metals. We said to everybody, go buy some and pray you never need it. Because if you put 10% of your cash reserves in precious metals and it does really, really well, that's probably not a good thing, because it means 90% of your investments aren't not doing well. But this is insurance. David, what do you make of what Sarah is saying? And why are these guys here? And if you have one that was involved in October 7th, don't you have more? And why are they here? Did they come here because they wanted to get some good Southern barbecue or gumbo shrimp down in Louisiana? Were they here because they want to make their way to Disney World? Or were they here because they're preparing another October 7th attack, but this time in America? Why are they here, David?
Economic and military organization. They are here because they were told 1,400 plus years ago that they need to fight the Christians, the Jews, Israel until the day they die. And they are being told this in every mosque in America, every mosque worldwide. So they are coming here in support of the jihad that will come when they feel like it needs to come. When I go to mosque, Brannon, I always ask the imams, why hasn't there been another September 11th attack, another major attack in America? And I'm told over and over again is that they are winning in America. And at this point, if they would have conducted another 9/11 attack, it would set them back 25 years. When they feel that they need to, when they feel they are very patient people, and I think Annie will agree with this, very, very patient. When they feel they will do it. Now, there's one thing that you had mentioned, Brandon, I want to bring this up, is I've always told people to be prepared, do not be scared. Just be prepared, and you work that word out. Now, why do they need to be prepared, though? And I want to add this to what you were saying, is because when crap hits the fan, when it gets to the point of where we have several major terrorist attacks, for instance, 5 9/11s on one particular day, your government is not going to be there to protect your family. It's going to be up to you and your family to protect yourself. And hopefully it never comes to that, Brandon. But that's the reason that we prepare, and you know that, is because the government most likely would not be there in a major disaster like 5 9/11s in one day.
Mm. And thank you, David. Annie, what do you know? And I want to ask you the same thing, David. Annie, what do you know about this group, that this guy that was arrested, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine? The Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Now, I just looked them up on Wikipedia. I mean, that's not the best source in the world, but I'll take it for right now. They say that it is a Palestinian, Marxist, Leninist, and Maoist organization. Hello, Red Green Axis again. What do you know about them?
Well, they are all of the things you said. They are also, well, they were on terror list of U.S. They supposedly started fading away, but the truth is they didn't fade away. They dissolved themselves into Hamas protection by working for Hamas. The ideology, the base of ideology is still Islam and Sharia. They're kind of like MEK, the Iranian version that I have spoke up on your show. They are Marxist Islamist, and when they were pressured, they supposedly faded away. If you look them up, most sources will tell you they don't exist, or they're very tiny, like supposedly ISIS and ISIS-K. but they're very active. They play a role in almost every attack carried by Hamas, not just October 7th. And their main role, including the guy who was arrested, Mahmoud Amin Yaqub, he also played a huge role of recruiting. They do a lot of recruiting for Hamas. If you look at the charges, if you look at the actual FBI complaint, you'll see that they say before the attack, he was encouraging Palestinians. He was doing campaign for them to join the fight. And that's how you end up seeing a lot of civilians inside Israel looting houses, stealing TVs and microwaves and all of that. So that's who they are. They became the marketing and recruiting team for Hamas.
What do you know about them, David? Anything?
Yeah, I can tell you, Brannon, and Annie was correct in my opinion in what she was saying.
Brannon, I have to.
Whoop, hold on. That's something we're going to play in a minute. But go ahead, David. Sorry.
Okay, this organization is just another acronym that supports the destruction of Israel and America, and karma is going to come to liberals and communists and Democrats who support these type organizations, because I've been told by numerous imams and Islamic leaders that when they are no longer needed, I'm talking about Islamic leaders no longer need Democrats, liberals, communists, non-Muslims, then they would be the first ones who are attacked. And I've been told that over and over again in numerous mosques. So they are just another acronym to try to confuse the law enforcement, the American people, Israelis, and non-Muslims. But they all have the same goal.
Now, as I've already stated in this broadcast, we have been warning about the schools in America being a target. And you can go back into our vault at worldviewtube.com/vault, put in The Perfect Day, put in Beslan, and all the interviews from 2008 forward will pop up. Guys, did you know that this guy who is reportedly tied to the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, who reportedly helped carry out October 7th, who's now been found in Louisiana, did you know that the group that he's with reportedly carried out a terrorist attack on May 14th to the 15th, 1974, that involved the hostage taking of 115 Israelis, chiefly school children, which ended in the murder of 25 hostages and 6 other civilians, when the reported 3 armed members of the Democratic Front of the Liberation of Palestine group infiltrated Israel from Lebanon. So isn't this interesting? Back in 1974, this very group went after largely school children. Here's an AP report from back then. Listen. I don't know if it's going to show us the other than just the image, or we're going to get a press release here. We'll see. Let's skip ahead. All right, that's bad footage. But did you guys know this? This group already has a history of attacking school children, Annie.
Yes, that's how they earned their way into the terror list, actually. That's not the only attack. They had, I think, over a dozen of them in a period of a decade. So, yes. But then again, I'm sorry not to distract the conversation, but that's why I keep emphasizing that our terror list is a business now. It's a bargaining chip. You do us a favor, we'll remove you from the list. You're not useful, we add you back to the list. How could this group be removed from a terrorist list? And can I add another side note which is relevant? When you said, are you saying our embassy gave him a visa? Yes, they did. But here's the thing. There are plenty of pictures that were released after October 7th with his face on it. Are you telling me that our embassies don't have any technology? They surveil us here through our phone and computer and TV and red lights on the streets, but we have no way for our embassy to do a face recognition and see even if he lied in his visa application. They couldn't find his face, though his face was plastered everywhere.
Wow. Here we go. Here's some pictures. The DFLP, the group we're talking about, was removed from the State Department's list years ago. If you're in the U.S., you can be a member of the group, and it wouldn't even be a violation of American law. These are the same monsters who murdered 22 school children during that 1974 Ma'alat massacre.
And I'm sorry, I need to correct my half a dozen in a decade. Sorry.
David, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I want to add something, and I've talked to you about this before on other shows, Brannon, is that when I was in Iraq, I had the opportunity to interview Al-Qaeda and Saddam Fedayeen, dozens of people. And I would always ask them, and this was in 2003, I would ask them, what is going to be the next type of attack in America? And over again, they would say, David, Daoud, they call me Daoud in Arabic. They would say that the next type of attack we are going to go after the hearts of the American people. And I knew what that meant, but I asked them, what does that mean? And they said, we are going to go after the hearts of the American people, which are the children of the American people. They're going to do it in our schools, and they're going to use attacks when they need to. So Hamas and these other organizations, like the guy in Louisiana, are just going from a plan that was set many, many decades ago.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Remember let me go back to this here. Here we go. The Ma'alat massacre was a Palestinian terrorist attack that occurred in 1974 and involved the hostage taking of 115 Israelis, chiefly school children, which ended in the murder of 25 hostages and 6 other civilians. Palestinian Islamic jihadists entered an apartment building in the town of Ma'alat, where they killed both parents and their 4-year-old son. From there, they headed for the elementary school in Ma'alat, where in the early hours of the 15th of May, 1974, they took hostages more than 115 people, including 105 children. Anyone wants to know about this, just put that in, as I just did, to X. You'll find people talking about it. It seems like that this is against history we don't know or that we have forgotten about that involves our children. And here we are. Ironically, we've been warning for years about striking our schools and our children. And then one of the guys that just pops up who took part in October 7th, killing families and children, is tied to an organization that has already gone after an elementary school in Israel in 1974, Annie. How many more dots do we need to connect? How many of these video clips are we going to sadly have to replay and say we were shouting from the rooftop while we have the joke of a security in our schools? We send gazillions of foreign dollars to countries that we should not be sending to them when we should be securing our own schools. Annie?
Well, let me oversell my Substack. Every Sunday at 7 p.m., there is a Substack that comes out on my Substack that has a report of this week in the history of jihad. This is exactly why I do this, Brannon. Every Sunday, I remind people from the existence 1,400 years ago until today, what happened on the first week of October, second week of October, every single week. Because you're right. If people keep forgetting what has happened to whom in hands of which terrorist group, they can just slip right into the comfort zone again. And since you talked about money, here's another news I broke today. If you remember, Brannon, we reported that Trump administration approved $230 million to be sent to the Lebanese government to disarm Hezbollah. Today, Lebanese government came out and said, okay, we came to an agreement. We're not going to disarm Hezbollah. We're going to limit their access to certain weapons. Are we going to get our $230 million back and turn that around and add to security of churches, synagogues, government buildings, schools, and all of that? No, we won't. We're going to let them keep the $230 million. We're not going to disarm Hezbollah. We're not going to disarm Hamas. And we're going to keep saying there's a moderate, there's a radical. There's a moderate, there's a radical. And every time I ask someone, I'm like, please show me the line where we go from moderate to radical. Nobody can show me that line.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't exist. It does not exist. And I wanted to add something, Brannon, if you don't mind. When you talked about be prepared, don't be afraid, I'm going to give a different point of view. One of the things I want to ask my fellow Americans to start doing, two things. One, train yourself on basics. You don't have to be a nurse or a doctor. Learn to patch somebody up. Learn CPR. Learn to not panic, because when situations like this happen, you need to stay calm and help those who are injured. I'm not saying go become a surgeon, but learn the basics. If you look into my first aid kit, which is a drawer, you'll see that I have everything from patching someone up, stitching someone up, or even I can treat a third-degree burn. I have the equipment in my first aid, and I have learned how to do it until help arrives. The second thing, please don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be too harsh, but I need everybody to step up a little bit from your norm, which is considered a spoiled. We need a strong mindset to take deep breath and help other people. You need to think straight. You need to put aside your confusion. You just need to know you're under attack and you need to be able to operate. A little cut on your finger should not stop you from, honestly, watch the new show that came out on Paramount Plus called Red Alert. Watch that and try to put yourself in their position and how they survived 8 hours on their own without help. We need to train our mindset. Stop the not on my watch. I got a gun. That's not enough.
Thank you, Annie. Closing comment from you, David.
I love what Annie said about the preparation and using the basics, understanding the very basics. Prepping is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And I will end with that. And I want to thank again, Brannon, you and Annie and the other people who are trying to get the word across of what Islam truly is. Islam is Islam. There's no radical, moderate, excessive. There is just one Islam, as Muslims themselves will say, one Islam, no moderates, no radicals, just Islam.
Dave Gobbets, author of Muslim Mafia. Dave, thank you so much for all you do and have done.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Annie.
And Annie is at Live Up to Freedom, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Annie, you have some Christmas gifts. Pre-Christmas gifts, right?
Yes, our Christmas sale is still going on at lutfstudio.com, And I want to give a shout out to your audience. The orders are coming faster than I can ship them, but the sales are still going on. Gifts are there. Christmas decorations are there as well. lutfstudio.com.
There it all is, folks. And this helps her do a lot of her work, her research, which she spends hours doing. And then, like so many, we have to have a little outlet to relax and unwind. Mine tends to be playing gin, getting beat like a drum by my wife with gin, which she did again last night. I'm like, this is not even funny. You're taking my fun game and you're making it no longer fun because you just beat me one hand after another. I did win a few hands, but it's just like crazy. I'm like, how do you get gin that fast? That's not even, she's like, I just got good cards. I'm like, all right, whatever. But we all have to have an outlet. Mine was playing gin to relax, but now it's rolling my blood pressure up because this wife of mine is very good at it. But everyone's got to have a little outlet, the point I'm making. Annie's happens to be making beautiful art. That's her outlet. That's her recreation, her, clearing her mind activity. But then she also uses it to support her work. So you can go back to working and researching and bringing us stuff. So I hope you'll do some Christmas shopping there. lutfstudio.com. I get nothing when you shop there other than supporting Annie so she can keep doing work for us and you. lutfstudio.com. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Brannon. Thank you, Dave.
And guys, if you appreciate what we're doing here, look, again, that's a long segment with no break, no commercial push. So please, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. And you will find a lot of that prepper gear, the ability to do stitches, sutures, medical kits, food, heaters, all that kind of stuff. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.